Okay, good morning. My name is Kaylee Robinson. I'm the program specialist for Mothers Against Strong Driving. Today, with the power of the brain development, we have a guest speaker. We have Miss Emily Bowman and Debbie Bowman and Caroline Farias from the Shepherd Center. Welcome, everybody. We're going to explain how the brain development works. I'm discussing, and I think we have some more people coming in. I'm going to mute the call. And we're going to discuss how we protect our squad and, of course, MAD's mission. This call will be about 45 minutes long with question and answers and full questions at the end, but we really want to talk about how the brain works.
I'm a survivor of a DUI hit and run back in 2013. And I hope all of you have a really good rest of your day today. And a good rest of your day today. Really good morning. And thank you for having me here. Nice talking to you.
And I'm her mom, Debbie. And as she said, she is a survivor of a DUI hit and run as a pedestrian 7 years ago up in Athens, Georgia. This tragedy literally turned our life upside down. Prior to this, Emily was a 19-year-old sweet, young lady, college, she loved fashion. She always wanted to open up her own boutique, and so she was working on that life goal. I was always one to watch the news and would see all these horrible things happening on around me, and I would think, more or less that nothing like this is ever going to happen to us. So, I guess pretty invincible. I don't know, but I don't think like that anymore. We absolutely cherish every day that we have. Spent 6 months practically in the hospital before coming home with her. Unable to do anything for herself. She couldn't walk. She couldn't talk. She was unable to voice her own wants and needs. She had a feeding tube. We had nurses and caregivers uh, at home 7 days a week for several years. Um, our journey's been a long one, but we still continue working with Emily, and she has made so much progress. She's still not fully independent, but we will never give up on that. We thank God every day that we still have her. She now walks without any devices, even though her balance is not like 100%. Um, she can definitely talk and express her wants and needs now. She eats. Um, just normal now. It takes her a little bit longer than the average person to finish her meals, but we are just thankful every day for the small improvements that we still have. She just recently finished a 2-year program at Kennesaw, the Academy for Inclusive Learning and Social Growth, and has been accepted into the next 2 years. I guess we'll see what happens in the fall, but we hope that this will help her to find some type of work that she can still do, maybe with computers, a receptionist type job. She loves talking to people. She does not know a stranger and loves complimenting people, which makes people very happy. So um, she's a joy to be around most of the time, right?
Yeah.
And but we all have our moments. But I want to say that the majority of Emily's progress has been with the help of the Shepherd Center. This is truly an amazing bunch of people, and I don't know what we would have done without them. Um, we still have to this day, um, 7 years later, see them on an outpatient basis. We have doctor's appointments like every 6 months, and we do rounds of outpatient therapy at Beyond Therapy. or I mean oh my Lord, Shepherd Pathways, and then we do some at Beyond Therapy. We haven't done any in a while, but anyway, we do like occupational therapy, physical therapy, neuropsych counseling, and just I just cannot say enough good about the Shepherd team. Another support group that we are also thankful for is MAD. They have been there for us. They are people that will try and help us in any way. Both Emily and I, we speak at the victim impact panels up in Canton, and tell our story to DUI offenders, which helps us and hopefully is saving lives. But it does us good to talk about it and let people know just how it can affect your lives, and not just her life or her immediate family's life, but her friends. She has some amazing friends that have stood by her side, and you know, everyone still just absolutely supports us in all that they can. But we were Family of the Year, and she was honorary captain at one of the Falcons games one year. But support is just so important in the rehab process that, and to have two great organizations like the Shepherd and the Shepherd Center and MAD is, it just helped us tremendously and given us the hope, and we're forever grateful to both of you. We thank you for all that you've done, and we could not have done it without you. And for that, we see Emily's journey as sky's the limit. So, hope everyone has a great day, and thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Debbie. But we really want to say to you guys, thank you for sharing your story. So if everybody could please say together, Emily and Debbie, because you guys are survivors. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next up we have, we're going to talk about MAD's mission. And we have been around since 1980, helping families who have been impacted by drunk driving, help fight drug driving, prevent underage drinking, and of course, we help victims and what we call them families from this 100% violent crime every single day. And that's why we're talking about underage drinking prevention today, brain development, and how we can stop it and how we can actually understand the brain. Why 21? It's bad for your brain because, of course, cognitive thinking. Let's think about a 5-year-old brain, okay? And the red and yellow parts of brain less fully mature. If you guys have siblings right now, think about what they can actually do. Repetitive thinking, 5-year-olds, elementary, preteen brain is pretty much middle school, teen brain is high school age, and 20-year-old brain is pretty much the second or first year of college. Everything's repetitive.
All right, so we're going to start with a breakdown of the major parts of the brain. Basically, our brain is broken into different lobes, and each lobe has a lot of responsibilities of its own. So we have the frontal lobe, which controls attention, motivation, emotional control, social behavior, judgment, problem solving, decision making, expressive language, motor integration, which refers to the relationship between sensory system, which are our nerves, and the motor system, which are our muscles. So it also refers to the process by which these two systems communicate and coordinate with each other. And it also controls our voluntary movement. Then we also have our occipital lobe, which controls our visual perception and processing, perception and recognition of printed words. The parietal lobe is in charge of the touch sensation, awareness of spatial relations, which is knowing where your body is in space in relation to objects or other people, and also our visual attention. The temporal lobes control our hearing, It also holds the auditory cortex, which receives sensory information from the ears and processes them into words and speech. The temporal lobes, amygdala, and hippocampus work together to respond to emotions, language, and memory. And we're going to talk about these a little bit further. We also have the cerebellum, which coordinates voluntary movement, balance and equilibrium, and fine motor coordination, which is muscle movement in smaller areas like your hands and wrists. And then finally, we have the brainstem, which also controls your vital signs, such as your heart rate, breathing, temperature, and the level of alertness. Your brain sends all of these messages to the rest of the body by using the spinal cord and its nerves. So it's basically like a big highway. Next slide. Our brain is also broken into two hemispheres. We have the right hemisphere and the left hemisphere, and each hemisphere has its own responsibilities as well. So the left hemisphere controls the right side of your body, and speech, writing, the temporal lobe, memory, language comprehension, musical awareness, while the right hemisphere controls the left side of your body. Spatial and perceptual inattention, neglect, body awareness, increased distractibility, and everything that you see on this slide here. Next slide. So how does your brain develop over time? Well, studies suggest that a female brain starts developing at an earlier age compared to that of males. For example, a girl's frontal lobe develops at around 9.5 years, while the boy's develops at around 10.5 years old. The temporal lobe for girls is 10 years old, while the boys is 11 years old. The girl's parietal lobe is 7.5 years old versus the boy's 9 years old. And the basal ganglia is 10.5 years old, while the boy's is 14 years old. This doesn't mean that during this age, these lobes are fully developed. It just portrays when they start maturing. The most significant change taking place in adolescent brain is not really the growth for each region, but the increase in communication. So like the nerve fibers or the highways or the roads basically of the brain. And these have a lot of neurons, and neurons carry nerve impulses, and they're the messengers of the brain. Also, a lot of brain scans show that between the ages of 12 and 30 years old, these connections become stronger and faster, and they're more connected. So these changes help the brain to specialize in everything from complex thinking to being socially adept. Next. So what makes you a risk taker? Well, there's a mismatch between the rate of the amygdala and the prefrontal cortex maturation and development. The amygdala, as you guys see here, is the very tiny part of the brain that the teens use to process information. It also handles the emotional part, the behavior, and our motivation. As adults, however, we start thinking with the prefrontal cortex, which is the brain's rational part. And this part of the brain, it's not really fully developed until about 25 years old. In teenagers' brains, the connections between the emotional part of the brain and the decision-making center are still developing, so it's not always at the same rate. That's why when teens have overwhelming emotional input, they can't really later explain what they were thinking because they weren't thinking as much as they were feeling at the moment. It is our nature when we hit puberty around between the ages of 10 and 12. Our prefrontal cortex during adolescence promotes novelty seeking, risk taking, and a shift towards interacting with others. So we start to feel a little bit more comfortable leaving the safety of our families. And we want to start exploring new environments and seek relationships other than our families. So as parents, what can you do? Well, always remember that you're the role model. The way you behave and fulfill their responsibilities will make an impact in your teenagers' lives. Have open conversations. what can happen if I do this or that? Discuss consequences. Remind teenagers that they're resilient and competent. Remind them that they have a say and a playing part in changing bad situations into better ones. Uplift them. You want to give them that confidence. You also want to be familiar with the things that are important to them. Showing interest in things they like, show them that you are interested in them and that they are important to you too. Now, when your teenagers come to talk to you, don't immediately offer advice if they come to you with situations. You want to be open and listen to them first before immediately trying to fix their problems or put blame on someone. You want them to be comfortable coming to you with their personal situations. So don't make them have fear of what your reaction is going to be. And of course, be part of their lives. You want to stay involved, but not too involved where they feel that they can't do anything and will try to do things behind your back. But as a teenager, how can you approach your parents? Well, you want to start conversations with them. Don't think that they don't know how you feel, because you want to remember that they too were teenagers at one point in their lives. How are they supposed to understand if you don't really express to them what you need? Always remember, communication is key in all relationships, not just with your parents, but with friends in general. Always communicate. And because of, understanding the brain a little bit better now, try to communicate with someone that's older, because you're going to get the kind of better advice if that's what you're looking for. So drugs and alcohol, alcohol and tobacco and marijuana are the drugs that are most commonly used among adolescents. Alcohol, most people drink alcohol for its initial stimulant. So to loosen up and to reduce social anxiety. However, if you drink more than your body can handle, you will start to feel the depressant effect. The walking alteration, the blurry vision, slurring speech, slow reaction, the memory impairment. Our brains cannot process information fast enough. So unfortunately, due to our brains not being fully developed during the teenage years, like we mentioned, we're not able to control ourselves and recognize when it's time to stop drinking. So this can easily lead to alcohol overdose or alcohol poisoning, and can cause more severe side effects, such as the inability to feel pain, toxicity, unconsciousness, slow and irregular breathing. You may have cold, clammy, and blue skin, and it can even lead to death. So you'll often hear people how they black out after drinking. And a lot of times during this blackout phase, they don't remember what happened or what they did during that time. Well, unfortunately, that's the blacking out is what has led to a lot of regrettable moments where you may do something that you on all of your senses wouldn't do at all. As far as marijuana goes, it can be classified as a depressant or a stimulant or even a hallucinogen, depending on the kind that is being used and how your body responds to it. Research shows that marijuana impairs attention, long-term memory storage, and psychomotor skills and learning. It alters mental functioning by impeding the connectivity between your brain hemispheres. And it's been also shown that with its overuse, the amygdala and the hippocampus are affected in size, which again, there are memory, emotion, and motivation centers. Do you guys have any questions?
And it also affects your heart, liver, pancreas, immunization system.
Yes.
Different types, and it provides different types of cancers, or actually gets you prone to it. Is that
Yes.
correct?
Unfortunately, alcohol and also tobacco use, it increases your risk of cancer tremendously. So especially during the teenage years, you're exposing yourself to a lot of harm in the future as you get older as well.
Thank you.
So how do you help your brain after you've introduced them to a whole bunch of things throughout your years? Well, you want to abstain from um, during adolescence, the effects that alcohol and drug use have in our bodies can be reversed. One study found that adolescents that become abstinent from alcohol have significant recovery with respect to behavioral disinhibition and negative emotionality. Some recovery occurs in the prefrontal cortex after a period of abstinence, but other research has shown that a number of days abstinent from alcohol was associated with improved executive functioning and also improved short-term memory. Um, other, study, Other studies have also shown that former marijuana users demonstrate increased activation in parts of the brain that are associated with executive control and attention. You also want to educate yourself, understanding that the adolescent brain is unique and it's changing rapidly. It can help the parents, it can help us as a society, and of course, teenagers themselves to better manage the skills and grasp the opportunities during these teenage years. Knowing and understanding that the prefrontal executive functions are still under construction, it may help our parents recognize, not to overreact when their teens change their appearance, and instead acknowledge that there is hope that there's going to be better judgment in the future. Plasticity also suggests that constructive dialogue between teens and parents about issues such as freedom and responsibilities can greatly influence development. You also want to challenge your brain with new skills. So for teens themselves, the new insights of adolescence neuroscience, it should encourage you. It should encourage your brain with knowing the different hemispheres that you have in your brain, inefficient cognitive processing adolescence. And it's also been shown that with its overuse, the amygdala and that you have a lot of opportunity to create your own ability and your own identity. And you want to optimize your brain according to your choosing and who you want to be in the future. So always remember that you don't have to be exactly like your parents. You can be even better. And finally, when you exercise, the blood carries a lot of oxygen and nutrients to your brain. So your brain's activation increases. It starts working a lot better and faster. So your body releases chemicals called like dopamine and endorphins, which are when you feel happy, and it gets rid of other chemicals that make you feel stressed and anxious. So when you have a lot of oxygen and all these nutrients and these good chemicals, it improves your mental abilities and it improves your memory skills also. It can also help you sleep better, which during the sleep, it also allows your brain to process your day, to transport data to the long-term center, and it also gets rid of what's not necessary. Sleep also allows your brain to filter information. And it also research shows that staying active can lower your risk of dementia and old age. By exercising and keeping your brain healthy and happy, it'll reduce your chances of seeking alcohol and drugs, and it'll help you obtain feelings of happiness. You don't need alcohol and drugs to make you feel happy. Like, you can do that yourself by exercising, educating yourself, and challenging your brain to new skills. When you accomplish something new, you feel good about yourself. So always challenge yourself to do something that you haven't done before. That just, to prove yourself that you can do whatever you put your mind to.
Like we're doing right now. All right. So we talk about what if I'm not the problem, right? What if you have a peer person around you that needs some assistance? Talk to them about how they feel. Of course, let them know that you are worried about them, and we are here to help them. Right? You make sure that they get the resources around them to identify what type of services they need, and of course, who they can actually talk to. Talk to a trusted adult for advice. Maybe you don't know the answer, but maybe somebody can give you answers to help your brain as well. We always prefer give referrals out to a 1-800 number. 1-800-662-HELP is always available. And of course, invite them to have fun with someone. You know, there's other things to do besides alcohol and drugs. You are not alone. So right now we're going to do some polls, questions. And if you could, I'm going to launch this poll and give you the results momentarily. All right, we're about 75% of 6 out of 8 people have actually voted. You got about 30 more seconds, please. Okay, I'm going to end the polling now. All right, thank you for taking those poll questions. Any questions at this moment? Okay, so I'd like to take this time to thank Debbie and Emily for sharing their story. Caroline, you've been so helpful for letting us understand the brain development, girls versus boys, and of course the ages between that. Really helps me as a facilitator working with young people with the prevention world. So you've given me some tools to introduce conversation, to continue to introduce the conversation with underage drinking. Matt has a program, Power of Youth booklets that we actually have available on our website. I'm going to share the results as well. So it looks like the majority of the people on the call were over 20 years old. So thank you for sharing that as well. But right now, we're going to talk about our evidence-based curriculums, which are available on our MAD.org website. It's called Power of Parents and Power of Youth. It is a free launch program, which is evidence-based. Power of Parents is the conversational tool, how to introduce a conversation with your parent, your young people, about the dangers of drinking and driving. And Power of Youth is an evidence-based curriculum for middle school and high school students. And it's called Power of Youth. It's a great program to introduce a conversation during this time, because it is now summertime. And you can have those conversations while your kids go back to school. If you have any other questions, we want to thank Emily and Debbie again for sharing their story, Caroline for great information. And we will be back next week to talk about another series of our summer enrichment series for prevention for young people and parents during this time. Thank you.
Thank you. And I just wanted to add, if you guys have any questions or any questions or anything that you would like to share, or you have some concerns about, feel free to email me with your questions, and I'll be more than happy to answer. Or if I don't know, I'll do my own research and share that with you as well.
Definitely. Would you like to give that out at this time?
Yes, my email, it's actually on the very first slide. My name is spelled a little bit different, so it's Caroline period Paredes at shepherd.org.
Wonderful. My email address is kaylee.robinson@mabb.org. That's our office numbers listed there as well. We're readily available to go out and do prevention with elementary schools and high schools and colleges and communities at any time. And we're doing Zoom. So we're going back into the workplace slowly to be safe and be healthy. But we also do our enrichment classes every Tuesday at 10 a.m. All right. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good morning and a good day today.
Thankfully, Emily, you're so awesome.
Yeah.
You keep fighting, girl.
Okay. All the voices sound good. We're in bad behavior.
Thank you, Debbie.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. You
Bye,
guys take
Emily.
care.